follow that line on the horizon over there and align this thing. It's not too much of an angle, but you'll see that just a quick change there, suddenly it seems a little bit more balanced. At this point, now that I've gotten it straightened, and again, this can be done for a drastic change or a very, very subtle change, no matter what. If it needs a little bit of straightening, don't be concerned about making that change. I'm going to go into Smart Photo Fix, and I'm going to have it suggest some settings. It's lightening it up. I happen to also like to increase the saturation just a little bit more. You can see a little bit of color coming out in the rocks, and maybe the blue is a little bit nicer in this area. And I'm also going to take the shadows down a little bit, which will darken the shadows, and it's starting to have a little more character at this point. Now, as a side note, I'm going to go into a little technical thing here about this thing called local tone mapping. Local tone mapping, you don't need to know what it is. You just need to know what the effect is. It really technically deals with all of the pixels and the relationship of pixels around them. And but this is one of those things that you can just have fun with. Take it, grab the strength, and move it, and see what happens. And in this case, you'll see that I suddenly have more texture in the rocks. I have some more texture in the sky. The sand now has popped a fair amount. So I'll just go back on that again just to show you what it looks like before and what it looks like after. And there it is. So this is an effect that I happen to like a lot. A lot of times when I'm shooting something that has sky and it is pretty flat, I think it's very useful to go ahead and be able to adjust use this local tone mapping to just adjust that local contrast just a little bit more. Again, if you don't like it, go ahead and click undo. In fact, you can undo all the way to the very beginning of the photo if necessary, back to start over. So it's a fairly good set of levels of undo that you have access to. Anyway, one other thing I'll show here, and that is back to color balance. If I take this scene and warm it just a little bit, you can see the color coming out in the rocks, and you can see the color, a little bit better color in the sand. And again, I took a picture that was okay, added a little more life to it, added a little more contrast, a little bit more color, and it makes a fairly dramatic change from where we started. So just you know, thinking about different things you can do is pretty interesting to try these types of adjustments. Just one quick more landscape scene here. This is a timed exposure, and you can see the water has a kind of a cellophane-ish like look. It's part of the way to what I was expecting to do here. I'm just going to hit it again with the Smart Photo Fix, let it brighten it up a little bit. I'll hit it with the local tone mapping, give it a little bit more texture. I'm going to hit the color balance on it, and let's see, I'm going to hit color balance, and I'll warm it up just a little bit. And again, you can just see in a few seconds how this thing just takes a little bit more life, it becomes a little bit more interesting, and tells a little bit better story. Very simple, very easy to work with. So, last thing I'm going to show you in the Express Lab is the idea of doing portrait photography work. Now, portrait photography is a very careful thing. You know, you're working with the person. You don't want that person to dislike what you're doing. You don't want to make changes which are inappropriate. But very simple to go ahead and make changes to a photo that are simple corrections, simple types of cleanups, all the way to some pretty dramatic changes. Again, whenever there's a question about some of the things, if you're doing this for someone, ask about, is that mole part of that person's character? Do they want that kept on their face, or do they want it taken off before you go clean it up? Those are all sorts of things to consider when you're doing portrait photography work. In this particular case, it's a very nice shot. It's done in open shade. There's a little bit of a reflector, which is giving us just a little bit of extra light on the face, which is very nice. And so I think this is a great place to start with just trying some of these quick tools that we have available. I'm going to click on this thing called the Makeover tool down here. Oh, wait, first let me go to the Smart Photo Fix, and I'm not going to actually let it make big changes here. I really only want to darken the shadows slightly in this particular image, which will probably give us a little better contrast between the background and the hair, and up the saturation very slightly. And then I'm going to go over to the Makeover tool. We have a thing called the Blemish Fixer here. The Blemish Fixer is very useful. The way it works is you can see that there's two circles, and this inside circle is what's going to be changed, and the outside circle is what it's going to use to make that change. So in this case, it's fairly large right now, and it would take from the area around and fix a fairly large area on the middle. The reason I bring that up is that if I'm fixing something that causes the outer circle to intersect with something like an eyebrow or a lip, you got to be a little bit careful because some of that can get blended in. There's two things that you can change over here. One is the brush size, and I always recommend using the smallest brush for the job as possible. Make sure that it completely encloses the thing that you're making a change of. And then the other part of it is the actual size, or the strength here is dealing with how hard the brush is and how much change it's going to make. You can keep that at 100% for straightforward changes. You can also back off on it a little bit, like I've got it at 50% right now. So it probably will take a couple of quick clicks to make a change, and that is that. It seems like it has just paused my sharing here. Okay, seems to be back online again. So I'm going to let that go. All right, so by simply again clicking on the things that I might want to remove, they pretty much just go away. And you can see that with any sorts of small blemishes that there might be on the face. And by the way, there's a little bit of a mole over here, and I'll just make this a little bit smaller. And I can just click, and it goes away. There it goes. So again, this is a tool that's very useful if somebody is defined by their freckles. You don't want to actually remove their freckles. Here's a case with the lip where, again, if I use too big of a brush, it's going to actually pick up part of that lip and it's going to blend it in. So you want to use as small a brush as possible in this area. I'll make maybe a 12 size brush. A couple of clicks. And there it is. It's gone. Anyway, very simple, very easy cleanup. Now, in this particular photo, you'll see some little things on the arm over here. Looks like a burn of some sort, maybe a couple of bruises. Again, this tool is fairly useful for this sort of thing. Just a few clicks, and those things are absolutely gone. In this particular case, on the bruise or on this burn, I can actually use another tool called the clone brush. And the way the clone brush works is I just go ahead and basically right-click on a spot, and it'll pick up that spot in relationship to where I'm drawing, and then I can basically have it make a copy of whatever the clone area is over the top of what I'm changing. So basically play with it a little bit. You'll see how it works. It doesn't blend all that well. That's something, again, we can switch back over to the blemish remover and just cause it to blend in a little bit better, and away it goes. So those little marks on the arm have disappeared. So that's pretty useful. Here's something that's probably not expected about this tool, and that is there's a hair clip in her hair, a bobby pin, I guess that would be called, and I can actually use this blemish fixer to go in and remove that. And part of it will be just amazing how well it removed it. Part of it may need a little bit more touch-up later on, a little bit more smudging work or something like that, but pretty much can remove that very, very quickly. So let's show two other tools in this area, and one would be the toothbrush. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the teeth here, and I'm just going to click in on